Hey, all my Sagittarius friends. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today with your January 2025 monthly horoscope. These horoscopes are based on whole sign Western astrology. So when I'm referring to Sagittarius, I'm referring to Sagittarius rising as the first house and dictating the landscape of the chart. If you don't know your rising sign, you might want to go to one of the free birth calculators on the internet. You just need your exact time of birth and location in order to determine that information. When I reference a day and a time, it's based on the Pacific time zone, so please adjust for your location. The month is going to start off hot. We have an opposition between Pluto and Mars. And we were experiencing this opposition back in the fall of 2024, around October, November. But at that time, Pluto was in Capricorn. So the energies were tense but different than they are now. So let's pull up the chart and show you what's going to happen. So here we see that Mars is retrograde in Leo. Leo is your ninth house of beliefs, foreign travel. It's actually the house you naturally rule. And we have Pluto in your third house of Aquarius. Pluto, I think, has the dominant position here. Pluto has been systematically excavating any toxic waste. And here it's going to be the toxic waste that lives in your mind and potentially as a result of your childhood or your early childhood experience. The third house naturally represents grammar school and those years. It represents when we first encounter the environment outside of our home and see how we're different than other people. It's a big communications house. It also has a lot to do with media and your emails and how you interact communicatively. So what we're looking at here basically is Mars is getting an opportunity to rewrite its belief system or to revisit the belief system. As Mars retrogrades back into Cancer, which will happen in just a few days, Mars will be in its fall. And the dance that it's doing with Pluto is very much sort of revisiting this idea of transforming my belief system and having that referenced or evidenced by the way that I communicate or the kind of communications I engage in. I'm going to click off Mars now. I also want to note that we have 3 planets retrograde as the year starts, and the nodes are technically on the very last degrees of the Libra Aries axis. Aries being your 5th house, Libra being your 11th house. And then it's going to move into the Pisces Virgo axis, Virgo being your 10th house and Pisces being your 4th house. So this is pretty significant. Let's go to the 3rd, where Venus is entering her exaltation of Pisces. Again, Pisces is your 4th house of home. We're going to see a growing stellium of planets in your 4th house, meaning that Venus is going to do her journey through Pisces, and then she's going to move into Aries, and then she's going to retrograde back into Pisces. At the same time, Mercury will enter Pisces, and we have Saturn, Neptune, and the nodes there, or the north node there now. And when we get to Pisces season at the February, March time, that's when the sun and the moon will join. So it's going to be a very concentrated energy. And the more prepared you are for that, the easier you can take advantage of the higher vibrations of this energy. Now, as we're on the 3rd and Venus has just entered her exaltation, she's in what I call a transit yod, or the finger of God, where she is the apex and the focal point of the south node here at that 0 degree of Libra, Libra being your 11th house of hopes and dreams, of the future, of the world, cosmic consciousness. And then we have Mars at 0 degrees of Leo, which is again your 9th house. This to me is where the quincunxes in many ways are an intuitive yearning to be egoless to the opinions of others, to the to things that don't create balance and harmony. That would be the South Node. And then Mars being brave enough to revisit some of those belief systems, but allowing them to, as Mars dips back into Cancer, there's going to be a intuitive dynamic involved here, like a being more emotionally intuitive or aware, being maybe even potentially more maternal towards yourself, because again, Venus is the focal point, and your creativity and your spirituality and your connection with your value and the things that you birth into this universe, both creatively and verbally. Because I think that the Pisces, that third house Aquarian energy is very much about my thoughts become things through my speech. So Venus moving into this fourth house is going to illuminate the nurturing elements, the maternal elements, the, am I seen and valued? There's also a strong sense of compassion here. And when we click off of Venus, we see that Saturn has been transiting through your fourth house, really wanting a strong, Saturn rules history. Pisces rules the soul's history. And here there's a strong building of divinity. And I think it starts with an assessment of your own value and your talents and your skills and how you use your voice, how you communicate. On the 6th is when we will see Mars go back into your 8th house of Cancer. Hello, the 6th. Sorry. And this to me is, we're still in a tense conversation with Pluto. And this is very much bringing up that deep psychological, unconscious loop that goes on behind the scenes that influences your decision making. And it may very well influence your abundance, as we're looking at Mars moving into Cancer, which is your 8th house of other people's money. So you may find that, there's a very weird feeling of upsets, of arguments, and they may be about property or money. The Cancer naturally rules property, and Venus rules possessions. So there could be something tense going on there. We also see that Mercury is at 27 degrees of Sagittarius. That is your first house. There's a lot of beautiful points within the Sagittarian energy that give you specifically a leg up when it comes to connecting with the universe and the angelic realm and being able to tap into those sources to manifest here on the earth. Now, Mercury rules the human mind, the loop, I got this to do today, I got that to do tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. Well, while Mercury is at 27 degrees of Sagittarius, there's an opportunity to download solutions, information, creative ideas from the universe as we take time to meditate, as we take time to connect. But that may be challenging, as we see there's a quincunx to Mars. So there's a blind spot in really connecting to that intuitive energy, that transformational energy. And then we see that there's a square to the nodes. So this could be very much where this might feel like it's frivolous. I don't have time for that. I don't have time to connect with the universe. What does that mean? Blah, 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 right? But actually, the more that Pluto moves into Aquarius, the more humanity will recognize that thoughts are things, and they are the seedlings of our manifestations and experiences on this earth. So right now there's tension, but at the same time, if we push past the tension, there's a potential for really capitalizing on that. And we'll see that as Mercury moves into Capricorn. And that happens on the 8th, when thoughts become very practical and very much about building a sustainable situation. Now, Mercury is still squaring the North Node as it's at 0 degrees of Aries, and technically Neptune, because feels watery to me, and the North Node is something we're stretching for. And on some level, Mercury deals with the short bits of information that the humans exchange. So there's a sense of practicality and quote unquote reality attached to that energy. But the further we get into the Capricorn energy, the more I think the growing conjunction between Venus and Saturn will bring thoughts of building sustainable structures when it comes to what I want for my home and my nurturing environment. Again, the Pisces energy is very much in focus as we move into the springtime of 2025. On the 12th, the nodes will move into the Pisces Virgo axis, which takes us into your 10th and your 4th house. The Virgo energy of the 10th house will be requiring you, Sagittarius, to be a little bit more gentle with yourself when it comes to perfectionism, when it comes to processes. If you're being too potentially, we don't think of Sagittarius as being rigid, but sometimes there can be, when we learn a certain process of doing things, we can tend to default to that. Plus, with having a 10th house Virgo, your people are looking at your mind. They're looking at how you process things. They're looking at how you are of service to them. It's a house of leadership. So that's going, and there's also an axis of health as well that's overlapping this whole dynamic of the 4th and 10th house. Because as you nurture your creativity and that sense of connection with divine as your true home, it will help the experiences you have within your reputation or within your career that you have grown past. And in growing past, some things may move to a different place. They may move to the outer rings of your life versus being, right at front and center. That's usually what happens with the South Node. Something moves out so that something can move in. On the 13th, we'll have a full moon in Cancer at 2:26 p.m. Pacific time, conjunct Mars. I'll be doing a separate video on that. It will be a very emotional moon illuminating something in the house of Cancer, your house of transformation, your house of other people's money. And it may require a brave position, but we'll get into that a little bit more specifically in that video. On the 19th, we will see Venus and Saturn in an exact conjunction at 16 degrees of Pisces. And I think that this is really a conversation that has a lot to do with how my history has shaped my self-worth, my confidence, my ability to move forward. And I think it's supported by the 16-degree Mercury in Capricorn. Again, the vibration of these planets in conversation are practical applications to build upon my spiritual creativity and connection. And I think that that's, again, how humanity is starting to move towards the recognition that we are souls having a human experience. We also see at this time that the sun is in a conjunction with Pluto. And when we move to the 20th, we see it is exactly at 1 degree. Now, for me, I think Pluto has the stronger energy here. Now, most astrologers will say that when the sun comes in contact with any planet, it combusts that planet. Its light is so bright, it outshines it. And yet Pluto is in the very darkest part of the universe, the furthest away from the sun. And therefore, Pluto is very aware of what it's like to be in the cold darkness of the human experience. And here, I think the sun really represents an ego expression and the sign of Aquarius compelling me to move forward and to innovate and to look to the future with my ego. So anything that's holding me back, and I think that's evidenced by the Mars Pluto opposition in some way. That's where, how you express your sun is how you express yourself out into the world, how people kind of see you. And I really think that in this case, it's a reconciliation of something that's been sitting underneath the surface that might be holding you back from true expansion, from that true feeling of flow. So, okay. Next, we go to about the 25th, I think it is, and we see that Venus is in an exact trine at 22 degrees with Mars retrograde. Venus again is in exaltation. She is very strong. She is very happy. And she's getting closer and closer to Neptune, which makes the party even more fun. This is where we've literally rolled out the fine wine. We've got great music playing. The vibe is totally peaceful and mellow. And Mars at this moment is actually being cooperative because Mars feels like Mars is surrendered in some respect to whatever the landscape is at this moment, and is sort of starting to really think about, does resentment and anger serve me? Even if I'm right, does it move my story forward? And I think that's evidenced by the opposition here to Mercury. Do I need to think about these things anymore? I'm kind of tired of all of this nonsense. This Capricorn is your second house of self-worth, of the experience. Sorry, something just blew up. It scared me. It's the second house represents the self-worth that was shaped by your fourth house experience of Pisces. So I think this is an opportunity that while there may be stresses, at the same time, both Uranus and Saturn, Venus and Neptune are supporting the awarenesses that afford transformation. Okay. Now on the 27th, we will see Mercury move into Aquarius and join that little party. I'm going to go to the 28th, sorry. And we see Mercury has his turn with Pluto. And this is an excavation of the mind. This is a bringing up of whatever the loop is that continues to play over and over again that can be toxic. And I think it is actually supported by the sextile we see to these planets over here. So it's also supported by the trine to Mars, which is still in place. But again, this is Pluto compelling sometimes through unexpected and traumatic events, a shift in the mind. And I don't know that it has to necessarily truly be traumatic, like in the outside, as much as sometimes we have a false sense of security. And when that sense of security leaves, that would be your 10th house south node in Virgo south node right now, affecting how you see yourself and how others see you and your career potentially. On the 29th, we'll have a new moon in Aquarius. I'll be doing a separate video on that. And on the 30th, we see Uranus move direct at 23 degrees in your sixth house of work, 23 degrees Taurus. This is, Uranus is so powerful right now because Uranus has been at 23 degrees since December 19th, 2024, and remains at 23 degrees until March 12th, 2025. So Uranus is sort of sitting in the sky and really looking for the 2.0 version, wanting to, unshackle you from anything that's been holding you back or anywhere you feel enslaved or being of service to something out of duty versus out of desire. And on the final day of the month, we will see Venus in an exact conjunction with Neptune. This is a dreamy little party, I'm going to tell you. A lot of this is like, it feels very lazy to me. This is like, feels like the greatest night at home where we're listening to good music and we're drinking good wine and we're, just fantasizing about the possibilities of the future. The moon has joined the party here on the last day of the month. But the moon does move through each sign, every month. So it feels pretty dreamy. The main opposition is really between the nodes, and that's always there. But I'm not too the square between Saturn and Mars is kind of, for me, not really too much of a big deal. It's actually not a square, it's a trine. My mistake. It's a square to Chiron, but I'm not too concerned about that right now. Aries is your fifth house, but I'm more focused in on fourth house affecting fifth house for you, Sagittarius. So I'm going to stop my share now. I really want to, I hope, inspire you to dig deep into your creativity, to allow your connection to your source energy, whether it's God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, the angels, and allow that connection to inspire you into your actions as we move forward through this year. We're going to feel um, a bit of a wobble between people who are very much into the practical reality of the earth plane and those that are understanding the integration of the soul within the earth plane. So it could get a little wobbly and funky. But for the most part, I think it's going to be a good year. All right, that's it. Happy 2025. At the end of the video, I've got the end card has your yearly. I did a 2025 monthly, but I did the whole year out for you. So you can go back and look at the chapters for January, February, and what's coming up for you, and then reference it throughout the year. And then there's also a love and money tarot card reading for you for the month of January. And I'll be back live on Sunday, January 5th at 11 a.m. Pacific time, where we do live readings for everybody based on rising sign. All right. Thanks, everybody. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment, and sending lots of love to you for a great, great new year.